What's good, everybody? Happy Friday, and welcome to the latest episode of Mystery Unsolved. I'm, of course, your host. You know the deal, you know why I'm here. If you do remember and you watched last week's video, then you do know what tonight's topic is. Tonight's topic is on the Lost Girls of Panama. Who are they? Why did they go missing? When did they go missing? Has the case been solved? That's probably a no, but let's delve deeper into the mystery disappearance of the Lost Girls of Panama. Without further ado, Mystery Unsolved. Chris Kremers and Lassane Froome were two Dutch students who disappeared on April 1st, 2014, while hiking a trail called El Pianista in Panama. After an extensive search, portions of their bodies were found a few months later. Their cause of death could not be determined definitively. Dutch authorities, working with forensic and search rescue investigators, initially thought it was likely that the students had accidentally fallen from a cliff after becoming lost. The circumstances and aftermath of their disappearance have resulted in much speculation about their final days. So we did a fairly recent one, and by recent I mean like 11 years ago. Because normally when I do a mystery unsolved case, it goes back at least 30 plus years, right? The Oakville Blobs that happened in 92, the Kentucky meat shower that was in like the 20s or 30s. And yeah, so this is like a fairly recent one, 11 years ago. They were both really pretty, which is a shame. So one was and we're back on. I don't know what the hell happened, but I became lost. And my tablet just shut off because it's becoming a weekly thing, and that's annoying the crap out of me. So yeah, we'll get we will resume shortly. All right. I was in the middle of saying one of them was born on August 1992, the other one was born in September of 1991. So fairly young, they disappeared. Let's find out what happened to them. Although many theories have been presented as to what happened to Kramers and Froome, no official cause of death has been ruled. Panamanian authorities came under fire for allegedly mishandling the disappearance and aftermath. Further investigation into the case in 2017 raised questions about the initial investigation, as well as the possible link to the murders in the area. So one thing that's always fairly frequent is I apologize if I look like I'm in sepia tone color. It's because I have like two lights in my room, and it's just yeah. All right. So one thing I've noticed about these cases is that If somebody goes missing, initially you're going to think, well, maybe the person was murdered. But it always seems like there's always a killer at that time in the area. And apparently I have to turn my TV back on because I need to get color into this room. There we go. All right. Sorry about that. All right. This uh, this mystery unsolved is already off the hinges, right? All right. Let's get into the disappearance, shall we? Claimers and Froome arrived in Panama on the 15th of March, 2014. The Ides of March. That's worth noting. They toured the country for 2 weeks before arriving in Phuket, Shariki on March 29th to live with a local family for a month while volunteering with children. On April 1st around 11 a.m., they went hiking near the clouded forests that surrounded the Baru volcano on El Panista Trail, not far from Phuket. Some sources say they took with them a dog that belonged to the owners of two Panista restaurants. The woman wrote on Facebook that they intended to walk around Phuket, and it was reported that they had been seen having brunch with two young Dutchmen before embarking on the trail. Some sources claim that the owners of the restaurant became alarmed when their dog returned home that night without Kramers and Froome. Froome's parents stopped receiving text messages, which both women had been sending to their families daily. On the morning of April 2nd, the women the woman missed an appointment with a local guide. On April 6th, their parents arrived in Panama, along with police, dog units, and detectives from the Netherlands to conduct a full-scale search of the forest for 10 days. The parents offered a United States $30,000 reward for any information leading to the whereabouts of Kramers and Froome. 10 weeks later, on June 14th, a local woman turned in Froome's blue backpack, which she reported finding by a riverbank near her village of Alto Romero, in the Bosques del Toro province. The backpack contained 2 pairs of sunglasses, $88 in US cash, Froome's insurance card, a water bottle, Froome's camera, 2 bras, women's phones in good condition. It said women's phones. E as in WOMEN, as in both of their phones. The woman's phone showed around 6 hours into the hike someone dialed. The woman's phone showed that around 6 hours into the hike, someone dialed 112, international emergency number in use in Panama, among others, and 911, the national emergency number in Panama. The first distress call attempted was made by Kremlin's iPhone 4 at 4:39 p.m. Shortly after that, another attempt was made from Froome's Samsung Galaxy S3. I like how they know the model of the phone. Well, I like how they include that anyway. At 4:51 p.m. None of the calls got through due to the lack of reception in the area. None of the subsequent call attempts ever managed to go through. On April 4th, Froome's phone battery became exhausted after 5 o'clock, and the phone was never used again. Kramer's iPhone would not make any more calls either, but was intermittently turned on to search for reception. Between the 5th and 11th of April, the iPhone was turned on multiple times, but without ever entering the correct PIN code again. Either no PIN or a wrong PIN code was entered. On April 11th, the phone was turned in at 10:51 a.m. and was turned off for the last time at 11:56 a.m. So it definitely seems like they're finding evidence, which is good, but still haven't found where they are. So, all right. And then it shows the actual phone calls. Froome's Canon camera contained photos from April 1st suggesting that the woman had taken a trail at the overlook at the Continental Divide and wandered into some wilderness hours before their first attempt at making emergency calls, but with no signs of anything unusual. On April 8th, 90 flash photos were taken between 1900 and 2200 hours. 1900 and 2200 apparently deep in the jungle and in near complete darkness. A few photos show that they were possibly near a river or a ravine. Some show a twig with plastic bags on top of a rock. Another shows what looks like a backpack strap and a mirror on another rock. And another shows the back of Kramer's head. So I'm not sure why that's included because a lot of that sounds like absolute gibberish to me, and it doesn't really sound like evidence. It's just a bunch of miscellaneous things that the camera caught, and yeah. The discovery of the backpack led to the new searches along the Colubre River. Excuse me. Cranum's, Cranum's, Kramer's denim shorts were found atop of a rock on the opposite bank of the tributary, there we go, a few kilometers away from Foon's backpack, and had been discovered. A rumor claimed that the shorts were found zipped and neatly folded. Pictures of the shorts, published in 2021, disprove this information. 2 months later, closer to where the backpack was discovered, a pelvis and a boot with a foot inside were found. Soon, at least 33 widely scattered bones were discovered along the same riverbank. DNA testing confirmed they belonged to Kramer's and Froome. Froome's bones still had some skin attached to them, while Kramer's bones appeared to have been bleached, something which can happen by natural means, such as sun exposure. In total, only around 10% of Froome's in total, only around 10% of Froome's and 5% of Kramer's bones were found. Jesus. So they kind of found a little bit of them, but not really. I'm not trying to be cynical, I'm just reading what it says. A Panamanian forensic anthropologist, say that 5 times fast, later claimed that under magnification, there are no discernible scratches of any kind on the bones, neither of natural nor cultural origin. There are no marks on the bones at all. So, yeah, that's pretty much it on that. So I'm gonna have to go to another article here to give us theories because that one don't give us nothing. Do do do. All right, let's see what we got here. We have all of those. Okay. We know this part. We know this part. We know that part. Now it's somebody talking to somebody. I thought this would have theories, but apparently it's just two people talking. Okay. So here we go. Do you have an official theory as to what exactly forced them off trail? Was it a snake bite? Did they get lost? Was there somebody that pointed them in the wrong direction? What made them start on that journey, into the jungle? So, what's your personal theory as to what happened to Chris and Sam? And the person that asked this is named ADF. Again, not really important. We want to know the grit. Castle Casalta is the person that's answering. Whoever Casalta is, they're giving their personal opinion in theory as to what they think happened to the two girls, the lost girls of Panama. I think it's a mixture of two scenarios. You have the accident scenario, and then you have the criminal scenario. No shit, Sherlock. That's pretty much the case with any disappearance or death. By criminal for me, I mean human intervention, not necessarily the criminal scenario. Maybe they met someone, got misled or frightened, and ended up stuck far from the trail. From there, it became a natural death, exhaustion, hunger, and exposure. The beginning is the hardest part to explain, why they left the trail in the first place. And that was literally it. And it was just a plug. It was just to plug the person's YouTube. Okay, so since they're not going to really give us anything here, we're going to create our own theories, right? Okay, so based off the little that we have to go on, I'm just going to try to read the third article just to make us all sane here. Okay, we have Reddit. I don't trust Reddit at all, so let's skip that. The U.S. Sun. Let's try this. It's just giving us a bunch of pictures. Final photo. Come on, surely these websites have theories. I mean, I usually create my own here, but come on, like usually they have some listed already. But the cause of the girl's death and disappearance has never been determined and remains a disturbing mystery. Apparently so disturbing that no one's got any theories on it. All right, well, F it then. We're just gonna we're just gonna give our own theories. I will give my own theory here. Okay. First of all, why did they go off trail? Who knows? There could be numerous upon numerous reasons why the girls went off trail. They were tired, didn't want to walk the trail anymore. They got distracted. They decided that they didn't want to be on there anymore. Maybe they met some people. Maybe they were kidnapped. Maybe they wanted to go to the ravine. Maybe they wanted to take some pictures off trail. Like I just came up with 5 or 6 right off the fly. You know what I mean? So it's it could be anything, right? The more important question here to ask is what happened to them afterwards. Why did they go missing? How did they die? Obviously, only 10% and 5% of their bodies were found, which is next to very little, next to nothing. So I think what it comes down to is let's go with that person, that Casalta person said. Well, obviously, it's either criminal or accidental, right? First case scenario, again, they were in the jungles, were they not? I'm gonna come up with a bunch of crazy theories, but you know what? One of them's bound to stick, right? First theory, they were kidnapped by some person and they were taken somewhere and they were killed. And the person then came back and only put a little bit, 10% and 5% of their bodies, out to be discovered because the rest of their body was never found. So God only knows what happened. God only knows what, if someone killed them, what they did with the rest of the body parts and bones. So the first theory is, of course, that they met an unfortunate person who proceeded to murder them. Number two, I can't really say it was a wild animal because obviously, well, it could be a wild animal. I mean, obviously, I feel like it would be a lot messier. There'd probably be a lot more evidence of their bodies, their bones. But again, unless someone tells me otherwise, I'm putting this as a theory. Number three, okay, accidental. How could it be? How can it be an accidental death if you only found not even a quarter of their bones? If it was an accidental death, you wouldn't be finding less than a quarter of their bones. You'd find all of them. If it was an accidental death, you'd see them, wash up ashore on the river, or their body in like hidden in the jungle, hidden in like the brush. So let's just rule out accidental because I just don't see. And they said like, oh, the body does decay after a while. You only found 10% and 5% of the bones. I'm gonna keep saying that because that's not even a quarter of a freaking person. So until you find the rest of them, you can't really say, oh, it was a natural accidental death. Based off of what? Based off of what? Third theory, there was a possibility that they fell off a cliff. That's just, it's got to be one of the two, right? Because again, not their bodies were never found. So let's get into deeper. Blah, 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 I can't talk. Let's get into this part, right? What could have happened to them? Why did they disappear? That we could surmise that one, right? So how did they die? Well, let's say someone either murdered them or they were eaten by an animal. But what happened to the rest of them? Again, maybe a person took them in a cavern or a cave and did God knows what to their bodies. Uh, Maybe they're in the bottom of the river or the ravine. Did they ever search the waters? Uh, an animal ate them. It would explain why there's very little of their bodies left remaining. Those are the three theories I have. Unless I'm missing one entirely because I'm just completely just off right now. But I don't think I am. So I think that, like last week's, I think unfortunately they met a grisly death. And I don't mean a grizzly bear. I mean like a person, they came across a person, maybe those two people they met with for lunch, or, because they were tourists, remember that. So maybe they met somebody that they knew or they didn't know. Maybe somebody told them like, hey, let's go off the path. Like, I'll show you a shortcut. I want to show you girls the real parts that, you should be seeing, not this path stuff, like the good sights to see around here. And they were both like, okay, yeah, we have this camera, let's take some pictures. Obviously, their camera, the shorts, all that was found. But again, it's all very, to me, very miscellaneous. It's very scattered. And unless you found their bodies, you've got really nothing to work with here. So I think, unfortunately, they both met untimely deaths because they were both murdered. And their bodies, the rest of their bodies, are in a cavern somewhere, or at the bottom of a ravine, or hidden in brush in the jungles on the paths, and off to the side of the paths in which they walked. Because they said they went off path, but for all you know, they could have been, those bones could have been in the ground. Somebody could have dug some stuff, and dug little holes and stuff. You don't know. Second theory, an animal ate them. But again, to me, it would be very messy. Obviously, there would be animal tracks and prints. So this one seems a very bit far fetched, but again, the whole 10%, 5% of the found, I don't entirely rule it out, but again, I would need a person to definitively say, Justin, that doesn't really realistically make any sense. So I'm going to count that as theory number two. Number three, they fell into the ravine, and the rest of their body was like, or their body parts were thrown into the rest of the ravine, with only a little bit scattered on the land. Oh my god, I stuttered. On the freaking land. So, again, it's just the lack of evidence to me is, most of the time there's no evidence at all, right? A lot of these disappearance cases. In this instance, though, we have evidence. It's just none of it really connects, none of it really makes sense. And with the very little evidence that we have here, you can't even piece it together to come up with a again, I'm stuttering. I don't know why. It's really bothering me because I'm alive right now and I'm stuttering. But fuck it, we're just gonna keep challenging right through. Power right through, Justin. Use your words wisely. We don't have a definitive reason, None of it really connects or makes sense. So what do you think happened to the lost girls of Panama? Do you think they were murdered? Do you think they died of an accident, natural events? Do you think an animal ate them? Do you think their body parts are in some cavern or cave somewhere? Do you think they're in the bottom of the ravine? Or perhaps behind a waterfall? Again, or are they like in the brush off to the side of the path, in bushes and in leaves and trees, and it's just lost to nature? do let me know in a comment below. You won't, but I have to ask every time because that's what a YouTuber does, right? Also, if you like this video and all my other videos, be sure to follow me by subscribing below. Again, you won't, but I have to do it because I am a YouTuber. This is what I do, right? um, but yeah, so another unfortunate disappearance case in which usually when a person goes missing and disappears, they're never heard from or seen again, and we don't know what the hell happened to them, right? In this instance, though, 5% and 10% of the bodies were found, and again, we don't know how they died. So, and we don't know where the rest of them are. So it's just a really, like, just a downright grisly disappearance case, which is very unfortunate. But again, if you have your theories or you know something, leave comment, leave some comments. Again, most people would edit this out. I'm not a professional. I never claimed to be. Uh, but yeah, if you have comments on what you think happened, leave them in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Mystery Unsolved. I do apologize. The I talk so fucking fast that it doesn't get out correctly, you know. I do apologize for the uh, the timeout. I had to come back in, but hopefully it'll be good. Hopefully maybe I can even splice it so it doesn't do that. But but yeah, I apologize for that. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Mystery Unsolved: The Lost Girls of Panama, and do stay tuned for next week's video, as it will be on. It will be the last episode of the season. However, that's just the season. I will likely be starting a whole new season right afterwards, or I will likely be starting mystery ghost stories. But the last episode of the season for Mystery Unsolved next Friday, Byron Priest's Treasure. That sounds like a new one. For Mystery Unsolved, this is Justin, and